2 years, for 2 years. And she ended up coming over and I seen it on Facebook with somebody else that was one. And I was like, all right, whatever. Give me a comment because I just don't have time for it anymore, right? Not to be a dick. But she called me up yesterday and she's like, hey, I made TXP. But I was like, yeah, cool. Good for you. And she ended up going to a team that a lot of people go to and then they leave because they don't get what they're told they're going to get. Right. And I was like, okay, well, shame on you, because we have what a lot of people need, And she said, hey, on that team, there's another agent that she does like 5 or 6 deals a year. That's all she really wants to do. She's kind of retired, but they don't have room for her on the team. Well, really what they're telling her is they don't want her on the team. That's what they're saying. We don't want somebody who's a little bit older who's going to do 5 or 6 deals. She said, do you guys have room? I said, absolutely. I said, have her come and talk to me. You know what I mean? Because we've got, another 5 or 6 deals a year with somebody who has a train like we have it. So anyways, that's kind of, for me, that's kind of like this podcast is like, hey, what do you hear that's going on out there, Tyler? What are you seeing? It's more like, to me, real in front of people's faces that we already know what we have to do it. But here's what I see from a lot of agents. They ask for help and then all of a sudden you give them exactly what it is that they can do to succeed. And they're like, well, I'm going to go do another video. And it's like, okay, like you should make 10 calls today, but go ahead and do the video. You know what I mean? So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are.
The thing is with that, Jason, I love that conversation too, because of the industry is shifting. And, Jake and I both believe that the teams is the way of the future of real estate. Like you cannot have, and I think all of us on this call agree with that statement as well. The amount of resources and the service that you can provide to a consumer, if we put the consumer first, cannot be beat by a team versus an individual agent. Now that individual agent will spin it and say, yeah, but when I'm working with a client, it's one-on-one and you don't have to go through a team of 50 agents, but that's BS. They're not going, when you're working with a client, if Tyler goes and gets a listing with the client, the agent isn't trying to call into the office and being routed by, or the client isn't calling into the office and being routed to 50 different individuals before they get to Tyler. Tyler is the main point of contact, the head of the sphere. And then he has all these resources behind him, which is the team to better serve that client. So, if Tyler does go down sick, if he is at dinner with the missus or with the family, whatever the case is, that property is 100% still being marketed to. That property, if someone has a sign call and Tyler's on the roller coaster in Disneyland with his hands up in the air, right? And someone calls that sign, they're still getting support. They're still being able to show that property. But on the individual agent side of it, if that person is doing everything we just discussed, they don't really have any of those resources to help back them up. Maybe they have a business partner that steps in with them or something, but it's not a whole team behind them to help service that listing. And then on top of that, what I do also like about this conversation is all teams are not made equal, right? The thing is, a really well-ran team implements. And we were on that call with that guy that you're having a conversation with up in your area. And he asked me, what do you like about the Rockwell group? And there's a lot of things that come to mind, but one of the first things that I was thinking about was the implementation of how fast our team gets from idea to execution. And I've been on other teams where the idea of something is always kicked down the road. Like, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And 2 years pass by and you still haven't done shit.
Because you're so focused on having to do production and you can't focus on the growth.
Right.
I've got to do that.
And so I think a really well-ran team has the organizational hierarchy of being able to discuss ideas and implement quickly versus just talking the talk.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this. Tyler, I'm going to ask you first. So what's your most valuable asset?
My most valuable asset?
Yeah. Well, if you had to pick one, what would be your most valuable asset?
My confidence.
Okay. I love it. You need to work on your confidence. So I'll just tell you right now, but I'm just joking. JJ, what's your most valuable asset?
My most valuable asset. Oh man, there's so many to choose from.
Just pick one.
I think adaptability. If we're being real if I'm talking about myself personally and being real, it's adaptability. I'm able to work with a variety of people and quickly get into different scenarios and adapt to that scenario. So I don't feel like I have to one person at all times. I can, and I think that goes back to even like high school days. Like I was friends with the jocks, I was friends with the preps, I was friends with the outcasts, the emo kids, I could just sit at any lunch table and get along with everybody. So that would be mine. What about yourself?
I could see you running with the emo group. Like I could totally see that, So,
they make
so
good
here,
music.
and this actually is going to go back into what you're saying. And then Tyler, I'm going to let you jump in because I cut you off. But my most valuable asset, and I didn't realize this until about 6 months ago, is my time. That's it. It's my time. And I think that a lot of agents don't realize that that is actually their most valuable asset. If you have more time, you can work on your confidence. If you have more time, you can work on your adaptability. If you have more time, you can work on implementing new projects, new things that you're doing, right? Because we'll never get that back, right? Not that the confidence or adaptability is not important. That's not what I'm saying, but I realize that my time is my most valuable asset. So when an agent says, well, I don't want to go to a team because I'm going to have to give up, monetary. I'm going to have to give up. I wanted to handle the transaction by myself. Okay, so then you haven't quite realized what your most valuable asset is, and that's time, right? Because when you have a team that backs you on all these things, number one, I'm making more money now than I did as a solo agent, okay? Because I have more team, I have more leads coming in. I don't have to work on those individually by myself with everything else. Number two, you realize that when you are making more money, it gives you more time to be able to work on the things that are most important to you. So I want to throw that in with what you're saying, because that's what a lot of agents, they focus on a dollar amount, which, don't get me wrong, money is extremely important, because with that money is going to give me my time, right? I don't care about the Lamborghini. I don't care about the big house. I mean, all these things, I might buy them when I have the money, who knows, right? But that's not what the goal is. The goal is to have the money so I can have my time back. So go ahead, Tyler, what were you going to say?
No, to what you're saying right now, obviously, like, I left the team and started my own team and then came back. But the single biggest reason I came back was time. I was struggling to find any time for anything. I went, like, at one point a couple days without seeing my children, because I was, like, outrunning signs and doing this and doing that and, like, all this chaos. And now, like, time being the focus on, like, coming back to, it's like, now, because of the offset and, like, leveraging of, like, people on the team, it's like I can even, like, focus on one client and schedule, like, my 4 or 5 showings on a Saturday, and I've got 6 open houses going at the same time. So it's benefiting every client I have just to be on the team. Like, I'm doing income producing activities, but to every one of their benefit, like, I'm not 6 people or 4 people. And, like, they're still getting treated well and treated right in a timely manner, like, according to what it is that they want and what's important to them. And so, like, that piece of time, like, you're just dead on with that. Because that's been the single biggest blessing coming back to the team also is, like, I've had just, like, the ability to go back into having, like, my own ideas and brainchilds and projects to work on, and, like, farming ideas and, like, local events. And, like, so all of a sudden, like, I'm doing all of those things instead of running a sign an hour and a half north and then taking the next sign 30 minutes later and then driving all the way down to Ashland by the California border and putting another sign in the ground, which is taking up my entire Saturday. And I'm just in and out of service, missing things. And then what I get to the end of the day, and I remember it, I'd get to the end of the day at like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Like, is that an appropriate time to be, like, reaching out to, like, my people? How many people did I just piss off because I didn't get back around to them? So that piece just, it hits home. It hits home hard.
Yeah.
Well, and for those that don't know, Tyler,
you also have a growing family. So getting home at 8:30, 9 o'clock, it's like, how much did you miss from 8 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night, right? And what's interesting about this conversation as well is two things here. So Jason, your question, a spot on question. I love it, because we understood it as skill set. What's kind of your number one skill set? And you're saying our number one asset, which I 100% agree is our time. And I actually did a class on this for realtors. And what I told them is, a lot of people say time is your number one asset. And the one step, just taking it a little bit higher on time, is your focus. Because you can give someone 30 minutes of your time, but unless you're giving them 30 minutes of your focused attention, your attention is what it is. That time really isn't a valuable asset. Now, I'll condense that a little bit further and break it down. Is, if you're with your kid and you're with them for an hour and you're supposed to be shooting hoops, but the whole time you're on this thing, or you're supposed to be throwing the baseball with them and the whole time you're on this thing right here, Zillow Flex call coming in. So the whole time you're on this thing, you guys get it, right? Yes, you gave your kid, you were there in the space for an hour, but without that attention, without that focus, it wasn't really valuable. You were just there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw into that because, and this is what I've been working on. This is what I am working on. Number one, for those of you who know, Tyler, his kids are his life. I mean, he called me with his daughters on the phone on my birthday at like 8:15 in the morning, and they sang happy birthday to me. That was phenomenal. That was probably the best gift. I mean, I've had from anybody outside of my family. You know, I got my kids. That was probably the best gift I've had my whole life, is a random call from Tyler Bowen and his two. Are they both redheads?
No, they might as well be.
Okay, because they just these two adorable little, anyways, best thing, Tyler's a family man.
Were they
but
like
here's what
happy birthday, Grandpa Giles?
Yeah. They're like, hey, Grandpa, do you have your oxygen tank with you? We'll help you out. But here's what I want to say to that is, and this is why time is the most valuable asset, because we don't look at just our time, it's their time, right? It's the time of our clients. It's the time of everybody else. So when we take that into focus and paying attention, if I've created my time freedom, then that means that when I'm doing something with my kids, a client, the team, vacation, that means I could actually focus on what I'm doing and enjoy it. And here's what I'm working on in my household. My kids know me for working. My kids know me for being on my phone. They know me for being on my laptop, especially recently because I've been doing a lot of studying, but that's what they know me for. And I'm like, I have to take a big reality check. Like, hold on. That's not what I want to be known for, a hard and great work ethic, but that's not what I want to be all known for. So now I'm implementing more things with my kids. In the mornings, we're doing more things together. After we're done with school and we're done with the day, we're going to the YMCA, we're spending some time together, because I want it to be a balance. I don't want them to just be like, yeah, my dad worked hard his whole life, which meant my dad really, he didn't really have time for us because he was so busy with working. That's the way I look at that, right? We say that we're doing all this for our kids, our family, but at the end of the day, is it more important to have that extra 10 grand in the bank, or to have those memories that your kids will never, that bank will never be depleted of those memories for the kids? So
this is the thing though, like to that is like the power of being on a team and being able to leverage other people and having so much help elsewhere, is you can do the things to have that time and get the extra 10 grand in the bank.
Right.
And because I mean, right now, everything I'm doing in my entire world is like, yeah, I'm known for my phone and being on it, and I'm working, and dad arrives at home and I'm in my truck parked out front for 2.5 hours, phone call to phone call to phone call,
sleeping,
sleeping, right? And so it's like, I am home. But the thing is, like, I have the ability, because of all of this leverage, to like, everything I'm doing right now is working on my own systems and processes to result in I can be home at 5 o'clock every day, no matter what. I can get 3 times the amount of business I have now, because the systems are there, the people are there, and all that support is there. And like everything that I'm working on right now, like because of the team, like I think 10 grand is undercutting what my goal is. But I have the ability to create it. And that's like the numero uno. So.
Yeah. And so
I was I'm gonna pivot and cut you off, JJ, because I want to ask you something.
But I do want to put, and we can pivot, but I want to put a cap on that conversation in this way of what it all started with, in teams being the future, different teams, different styles. And what I think that with everything you guys just heard on this conversation right here, if we bring the rest of our 40 agents and have the same conversation, we all discussed a little bit different piece of how and why, what we like about the team that we are currently in, right? And the biggest thing that the owner and founder of the team, Rockwell, says is, and I think this has been a big secret to the success of the team, is he wants his agents to be happy. Like whatever drives you, whatever the way you want to build your business, that's what he wants best for you. And we're going to help you accomplish that. We've had teams, we've seen teams, we're all, have spoken to countless team leaders I've seen teams that require their agents to be in the office from, 9 to 11 making prospecting calls because they know that that creates success. But also 9 to 11 doesn't work for everybody. But they make that a not an expectation, but an actual standard that you cannot be on their team if you cannot be at the office by 9 to and in the office till 11 or 12. They have expectations not expectations, standards that you can't be on their team if you don't make 100 calls. And I get all that. I know why they do that because that does drive results and that does drive success. So I get that, but you can't grow in volume that way. You can't get to the 50, 80, 90, 100 agents that you're trying to build massive brokerages that way. And you also are eliminating people. You're not meeting people where they're at. So maybe an agent today can't come in from 9 to 11 on your rigid schedule of what you want because maybe they're a stay-at-home dad or they just had a baby and they're a stay-at-home mom or some situation. They went through an illness with a family member where they're a character, like hundreds of reasons why they can't be there for that season, for that period. But maybe in a year, if you give them the luxury of, hey, come and go as you want, you understand though that if you make 10 calls in your CRM, you may sell one house a year. You understand that part. Whatever you want to be held accountable to and whatever your goal is, we'll help you get there. You want to sell 2 houses a year? So be it. We'll make sure you sell 2 houses a year. Whenever that light flicks on and you say, okay, I want to sell 30 houses this year, we're going to help you get there too.
Yeah, it's always about helping get there. But and like to that point, the biggest thing on that, because like you mentioned the lady who like only sells 5 houses a year, Jason. It's like, oh, like they don't have room, and it's just like, I mean, to me that's mind numbing. Because I'm like, if an agent wants to do 5 deals and she's happy with that, like the service that she's providing to those human beings is going to be skyrocketed because she's happy doing it. And so that's where like the experience comes in for people and like actual like referrals where it's not just like, hey, I know a real estate agent. It's like, hey, you should talk to my friend JJ. He's a real estate agent. And it's friend first because the service came from like a place of the heart and a place of happiness. Right? And it wasn't forced upon somebody to be doing like a million different things so that by the time they showed up to the 4 or 5 showings, they're like, hey, what's up, Tom? Yeah. No,
Hold on.
we're going to get this one over with and then we can jump to the next one. It's like genuinely happy to see them because they're happy with their own position in life. And I think that's like the biggest thing in the world because I tell people that all the time too. I'm just like, dude, like if you're happy doing 3 deals a year, let's get you there. You want to do 50? Hell yeah. Let's get you there.
Let's get you there.
But you're going to be happy doing whatever your goal set is. So it's just it's a huge like soapbox thing for me. Like
and
make sure that
people... it's funny because what we're talking about, it's like it already correlates to what I was gonna somewhat pivot to because we talk about teams, we talk about time, we talk about resources, we talk about where the agent's at, what they want to do, what they don't want to do. I implement things here in the office that are suggestions. We do this, here's the result, and here's what that could be based on what the agents say to me that they would like to accomplish. Right. So if you want to accomplish it, here's the roadmap to do that. Here you go. If you stay on the roadmap, that's up to you. Right. It's not up to me. So what this brings me to is a lot of agents that I think struggle with just real estate decision making, being on a team, not being on a team, staying at a brokerage they shouldn't stay at, doing all this stuff comes down to their time management, which brings me back to the whole time is their most valuable asset. Because you talk to an agent who sold 6 houses last year, they're going to tell you, if anytime you try to talk to them about potential opportunity, what's the number one thing every agent says to you if they sell 5 houses or they sell 50 houses? If I was like, hey man, you got time for coffee?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. No, you're not. I'm sorry. You're not too busy. Don't tell me that. I get up early because that's my choice. I go to the gym early. That's my choice. People, there's choices. So if you're selling 5 or 6 houses a year and you want to grow, the one thing you got to get rid of is saying I'm too busy. How many hours, JJ, this is what I was going to ask you, on average, a full-time real estate agent that can make it in an office, can do all of that stuff, this is their career. How many hours per week do you think on average a full-time real estate agent really works per week? Actual work, not I'm talking to my buddy JJ on the phone for 6 hours.
Let me tell you a story, and sales in general, not just real estate agent, but sales, prospecting, right? You got income generating activities. So there's a guy that did a test on this because he was working 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week, and he was at the point of burnout. And he thought he was grinding. Like, we all have been in that moment where we've worked an 80-hour work week and we're exhausted. He's like, man, my income, and it was a high income. He was making like $200,000 a year, and so relatively high income to the average American, right? And so he's like, I really gotta like figure this out. Like, why am I so burnt out? I'm working 80 hours a week and I'm not having the level of success that I want. Well, he said, okay, for every second that I'm doing income generating activities, I'm going to start and stop this stopwatch. And so he started that. He started his morning at 6 a.m. and ended at 8 p.m., his normal work hour. And he was door knocking at that time. So every time he went and he knocked on a door and was speaking to someone, he'd start the stopwatch. Every time he left the door, went to the next one, he'd start the stopwatch. He'd start, stop, stop. In that 60-hour work week that he did it, it was amazing. It was astonishing. There was only 8 hours of actual work that got done. There was a lot of in between filler stuff that was not generating income. And then that's when he sat down and he started writing, okay, what did I do? Where can I crunch time? Now, we're not AI robots yet, so we can't get to 100%, but can we get to the 80-20 rule that everybody knows, or most people should know, the 20-80? Yep. How can we maximize our day to take 80% of it that generates the actual 20%? How can we maximize it versus the flip side? We're only doing 20% income generating and 80% wasted time. How can we flip that to have 80% income generating and only 20% wasted time?
I mean, I have an leverage. Leverage for sure. For me, I guess I could say I'm a professional at this point. That's all I do. But I don't know, like my time, because I time block. I think my calendar, honestly, all of my color coding is incredibly sexy and I love every second of it. Right. And I do have like everything set in stone there. But really, I just embody it. Like, I'm a real estate agent everywhere I go. Every time I'm talking to anybody, and I'm never like being pitchy or salesy, but I make it just like abundantly clear so that I'm always prospecting, always and always and always. And at least like that's kind of like my mindset on it is like, you gotta keep yourself in order and keep yourself time blocked for like actual prospecting and all the things. But it takes a lot. Because essentially what I'm saying is like, you always have to be on, and it takes a lot. But in that same scope of like what I was just saying, somebody is happy doing 5 a year, that happiness exudes from them. And so like with like me going through day in, day out, like I'm just happy doing this. Right. And so like being on isn't really a thing. It's just like, I'm just always excited to freaking talk about houses, talk about people's steps, talk about where they're at, right? Like get to know people on the deeper level, right? Like make friends, right? And throughout it, right, just like kind of making myself a focal point of like, that's the real estate guy. Like he's great. Go hang out with him. Like he'll sit down and have coffee with you and he won't talk about houses, like, but just constantly, like, it's just relationships. Right? And it's the roller coaster I ride on, because that's what gives me my high, is getting to know people. So
yes, sir.
I'm glad that's the way you like to get high. Let's say that, that's a good choice. All right.
Even in Oregon,
helping other people.
Number one.
Yeah. So that's good. So here, I'll answer this, and I know we're going to be wrapping this up, but here's, it's funny how we just evolved in this conversation about a lot of different things with teams and solo and time and everything else. But what I realized is that when you're typically, for solo agents, and I agree, teams are the way to go for a lot of reasons, right? Leverage is the number one for me. I've now leveraged out to be able to grow by joining the Rockwell Group through all of these resources that maybe I could have had 5 years from now, but 5 years from now, I don't want to be working on doing that. I want to be working on other things that are going to give the financial freedom, the time I want. So here's what happens is, agents say I'm too busy. They're too busy because they're doing their own transaction coordinating. They're too busy because they're setting up their own photographers. They're too busy because they're setting up their own inspections. They're too busy because they're sending out documents for to be done. They're too busy with all of the things that are not income producing activities. And when you align with the right group, even if you're on your own and you leverage out a showing assistant and a TC, you're now starting to understand that your time should be spent on the things that are most important. And the things that are most important to me are building the relationships. When I can be talking with a client and building that relationship, it all, I asked a question to an agent the other day. I said, hey, are you talking to your sphere every day? Right? We're doing a great thing right now with the Rockwell group of reconnecting with our sphere. And I think that that's very important. Are you talking with your sphere every day? Well, yeah, I talk to a lot of them. I talk to a lot of them. I said, okay, what percentage of contacts that you made last week was on your sphere? Well, I don't really know. I said, okay, so here, let me ask you this question. Do you feel that if someone in your sphere went and bought a house, that maybe it would have been a better benefit that for them to work with you because of how experienced you are, the resources you have, and everything else? Do you think that that would have been a little bit of an injustice to not make sure that they knew that you could help them through one of the most important aspects of their life? One of the most important positions. I truly believe that when I'm helping people. I feel like if they randomly, because most times they'll, everybody has a friend that's a real estate agent, but most time they're going to end up working with somebody that they just met. And maybe they're going to be phenomenal, but we don't know that. But we know what we can do for them, right? We know how we can take care of them, especially our friends and family. We're going to treat them all the same, but they're our friends and family. So the response I got was, and this really, really resonated with me because I understood how I tried to help so many agents, and it really backfired on me because I didn't meet them where they were at. And this particular agent had told me, well, not really, because what if they got a great agent? I said, okay. I switched the gears in the conversation because I was trying to get them to understand that they are valuable and this is what we should be doing, right? So to sum this up, leveraging off and having the resources that you don't have to spend your time on anymore gives you the time not just to build the relationships with your clients, but more importantly to build a relationship with the family that's inside those four walls that you live in, right? Because when we're out there building all these other relationships, at the end of the day, sometimes we're too exhausted when we get home and we don't mean to, but we've depleted all of our energy, and that's just not okay with me.
Yeah, there's a thing that I heard just the other day that like you're totally just like bringing back to the forefront of my mind. It's the difference between riding a bicycle and driving in a Tesla. You hop on your bike, you're doing all the work, you're powering it out and you're rocking it and you feel like you're kicking ass and you're getting the exercise and you finally get to the destination and it's awesome. And like, yeah, you did it, man. Like, good job. You got all the way there. I mean, like, that was great. And you powered through it. But in the Tesla, you went 10 times further and all the work you did was people and just talking on the phone and building the relationships and everything else. And it's like, which one do you think gives you more opportunity to do your job? Riding the bike with your hands tied down, like doing the thing, right? Like, so your hands are tied, your legs are tied, your mind is tied, you're focused on everything going on around you right there in the moment. It's really just like taking that like closed in view to opening it up where you're just kicking back. I mean, you might as well be in a freaking limo. And you can call everybody, see how everybody's doing, check in on all your friends and family, check in on all your escrows and your deals, prospect, all the things, right? And then you arrive at the same exact destination, but you're not sweating your ass off. You got all the work done in between. Like it's like one or the other. And that's the difference between a solo agent and being on a team, is that like there's so much just going on in the background that your whole job is relationships. Everything else is like off. Like the wheels are moving.
The thing is, dude, is it's working in the business, working on the business, and the working on the business part is the destination of where you're trying to get. So working in the business, consumers are number one priority. We're making sure we're helping buyers, helping sellers, helping investors, and that's the in the business. The part is that no, not a lot of people are thinking end goal. Like, where am I going to get to at the end of this, where I'm working my ass off, as you're saying, and where am I trying to get to the end of the destination? I don't think a lot of people are consciously aware to say, okay, I want to be a real estate agent until I'm 80 years old and then pack up my box and then my headstone's going to say sold over 1,000 homes, right? Like, no one really wants that. So what do you want? And are you on that bike pedaling hard and sweating and grinding and going far and then finding out, man, you went a long way, but you went the wrong way?
Yeah.
You didn't even get to where you were actually supposed to, you thought you were supposed to get to, right? And so I'll leave us with this story time. Jason says I always have too many stories in my back pocket. So I'm going to go get a blanket and a warm cup of milk.
Right.
People don't have a time management problem. They have a priority management problem. So if I tell you, Jason, if I'm trying to sell you insurance, if I'm trying to sell you a house, if I'm trying to get you to be at a different brokerage, no matter what it is, if I'm trying to get you to do something, and you know I'm trying to get you to do something, to do that, whatever it is, that activity, and you're telling me I'm too busy, I'm too busy, I'm too busy, and I'm calling you every week, Jason, I want to present this opportunity, I want to present this opportunity. What you're telling me is, hey, growth or financial stability is not a priority to me. That's what you're telling me. You're not telling me I'm too busy. Because if I call you and you're like, oh, no, hey, JJ, I'm too busy, man. I'm like, Jason, slow down, man. I'm not calling you. Hey, I got a bad call. Something happened in my family. I need you to watch the kids for 2 hours, dude. Me and my wife need to run over there and we need to take care of things. Can you watch the kids for 2 hours? All of a sudden that conversation switches. You're not too busy. Yeah, dude, what's up, man? What happened? Yeah, for sure. Bring the kids over. Like, we got you. Okay, so we're not having a conversation about time management. We're having a conversation about priority. And your priority of empathy and being there for my family is higher on the chart than financial stability or whatever opportunity. Now that's not a bait and switch. Like, that's if something really did happen like that, and I called you and I was like, hey, dude, and I had been calling you, something did actually happen, and I said, hey, dude, I need you right now, man. You're too busy just went out the window, and you're going to drop whatever you're doing to come help me out. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yep.
I'm right. I know I'm right. So that's what I'll leave us with today, you guys, is everything we discussed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever you're going through in your real estate business or anything like that, sometimes you just got to write out your priorities. What's your priority metric? And then stick to those, create your own standards, right? And if you're struggling in real estate and you need to, reprioritize something or regroup or be in proximity with someone different, whatever it is, or even if you just need a new space, Jason actually has something that he's throwing down on Fridays from 11:30 to 12:30, which he's doing a 6-week reoccurring course on Zoom, completely free, open to anybody. Doesn't matter what brokerage you're with, or if you're on a team, or if you're solo. This is a place that you can jump into Zoom. He'll do a 30-minute course. He'll break it down on what he's doing right now. And then the last half of it is Q&A. So we'll drop the Zoom link in the description below of this video here on YouTube. And then if you want to drop in on Fridays, just drop in and say what's up to the crew. Jason, so what do you got going on Fridays? What is the 6 weeks?
So right now, funny enough, I think that this Zoom is, can you hear me?
Yeah.
No. Let me see.
I think I broke Jason. I broke Jason. So I'll fill you guys in real quick, right? So week 1, he's going to talk about lead generation, have conversations, how to talk to clients, how to engage clients, where to find clients, things of that nature, right? Week 2, are you back?
Yeah. So funny enough, I could hear you through my headset, but I could tell it was off because it was like one of those movies to where, what was that there? So I was like, I had to watch your expressions and see your hand movements with what was going on to figure out where the voice was trying to catch up with the speech. So, so yeah, I heard everything you said. So yeah, every 6 weeks, we're looking at starting it this Friday. We'll drop it in there. And really what this is about is to add value. It doesn't matter what brokerage you're with. It doesn't matter what stage you're in. We're ever changing in real estate. So this is to help us kind of keep up on things that are most important. And at the end of this, it's to try to help people realize that we all got into this pretty much for the same reason. We wanted to build something better for ourselves and our family and help the people that we love. So, it's not I'm right about everything. That's why I like the Q&A at the end, because people can come in and maybe bring, drop in some knowledge that I can learn from. So really excited to do it.
Nice. All right, Tyler, any updates on your end or anything you want to take them out with?
Just kind of to my little story at the end, it's like, if you're going to end up at the same destination, would you rather take 5 hours on the bicycle or 25 minutes in the car to get to the same place?
All right, guys, that wraps us up.
Love it.
Rockwell Network, the Agent's Edge. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.